Okay, so we're starting from saying our names. I'm Katarina.
Tamsin.
Hansen.
Tony.
Heyman.
Jacinta.
Adrian.
Peter.
Dean.
And Bob.
Okay.
Pick your ears.
Well, same old thing. We'll go through it the same old. We can't teach you anything here, we don't tell you anything. What we do is point toward and ask you to look and see for yourself to what's being pointed at. And then recognising, looking into it yourself, you'll come to your own realisations or recognitions and conclusions. So another way I put it, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not talking to any mind. I'm not talking to the body-mind entity that you might believe yourself to be. I'm talking to that I am that I am. And that I am is a sense of presence. It's not it, it's called, but it's a sense of presence which translates as the thought. I am. Just to this, nothing else. And there is nothing else when you investigate and look, except this sense of presence. And it's all, as they point out, the one essence. And it seems to be two, but there's not two. No, it's not. It's all interdependent. There couldn't be one without the other. That's what we don't realise. And we try and separate them. I think there's good and bad, but the good's just one end of the stick, the bad's the other end of the stick. They're not separate at all. And there couldn't be one without the other. So all this manifestation is a dualistic manifestation. It appears to be other than one. But all the ancient texts and scriptures will point out to that it's only the one essence that's patently shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything. And you are that. Hinduism, they call it Advaita. Advaita translated means non-duality. And they try to describe that non-duality by saying it's one without a second. When they say without the second, they mean without the other. Well, not the second as a point in time, but without the other. There's only the one essence. Pointing out that that is all there is, and that's all there ever was. But we've taken on this idea and this belief we're separate. We are individuals, we are persons. And where did that idea come from? How did it come about? Through the fact we learnt words. We've learnt words, but how many words were you born with? And you realise you weren't born with any words at all. And we didn't learn any words till you were around about the age of 2, 2.5, or somewhere around about that age, when we learnt words from our parents. So prior to that, you were living without the word for the first couple of years of your life. And you were getting along all right without the word. Your parents were looking after you, feeding you, and all. If you were hungry, you'd cry. If you were happy, you'd laugh or giggle. But you had no concepts about anything whatsoever, because that's all that words are concepts, ideas, images, thoughts, feelings, emotions, all word. And it points it out clearly in the Bible when it says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. Finding out there's not some big daddy in the sky or anything else. All that this so-called God is a word, a label we've put on it. All things were made by him, by the Word. And isn't that so? What can you say about anything if you hadn't put that word upon it? Nothing at all. All things were made by him, by the Word, and there was nothing made that was made without the Word. So have a look at this manifestation around you right now. You're seeing other people in the room, you're seeing the space, the floor, the carpets and everything like that. Go out and look outside, there's trees, flowers and everything like that. And what are they? They're all words. The great mantra is, I am that. And we lose sight of that. That is all there is. And don't you innately know that? Because say that's the chair I'm sitting in. That's the room I'm in. That's the space. That's the trees outside. That's the flower. Everything is that, which we've discriminated further with the word. And what are you if there's no discriminating thoughts arising? Can you say, I am not? Well, you'd need a word to say that, wouldn't you? Can you say, I am? You can't even say that. That's another word. But can you negate that beingness that you are right now? And you can't say, I am not. So you must be. And the thing is, we're just not happy with that beingness either. We put on it, I am a human being. We put the label human on. And then you've got this conceptual idea of other than the human, this thing you call God. And God is a greater being than what I am. It's superior to me. We believe, without questioning it. So, I am a human being, God is a supreme being. What if you took that word human off and took the word supreme off? Then try and separate the beingness without putting a label on. What would it be? Wouldn't it be just the pure being? And don't you know that now? You can't negate your beingness, can you? You can say, oh, I am not for the rest of your life. But then if you look at that, what's enabling you to say it? If it wasn't for that life essence and that beingness, you go, hey, how you doing?
I won't kiss you, I'm not sure the protocol.
Whatever.
I can, but I don't know. How are you?
So innately, everything is this beingness. Because that's being the chair, that's being the carpet, it's being the space, being the time. And being is not becoming. Being implies something that's happening right now in this immediacy. It's not wasing, it's not what will be. It's always the actual, which is this immediacy. When you investigate that, you'll see that time itself is a mental concept, because time implies as past and future. But is there such a thing as time? That's what needs to happen. We need to investigate some of these concepts we've taken on board and see if they'll stand up to the investigation. And that's what they say. Truth, the false cannot stand up to investigation. So when you investigate some of these beliefs you're taking on and see through them, see the false as false, what must you be left be? Must be left with the truth. And isn't that the saying that know the truth and the truth will set you free? What do you need to be free from? Well, what's the cause of all your problems right now? Isn't it the belief that you are this separate entity? You are this individual? You are this person? Because you're not relating to a me or an I. What can be unhappy? What can be sad? What can be fearful or anxious if it's not being related to this conceptual image? So all our problems are problems of relationship. Relationship meaning relative to. And I tell you that there is absolutely no duality in non-duality. Relativity, relationship, is a fiction. It's dualism. But we've believed in it and continue to believe in it until it's investigated and seen. And you'll see that it appears to pattern, shape and form dualistically. Day, night, winter, summer, higher, lower, this, that. Everything is seemingly separate and divided. And what's dividing it? The word. Now, if you hadn't learnt any of these words, what could you say about it? Didn't know any words. You'd leave it as it is, wouldn't you? Just as it is. And you couldn't say it was good or bad, pleasant or painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. But we take them to be separate, and that's our problem. It's not separate, there's nothing separate. If they couldn't be good without bad. So bad, the good is not independent, or the bad, they're not independent. They can't stand on their own. Each one needs the other. You and I, you and me. Everything needs the other. So there is no independent nature to anything. But we've taken it to be independent and liking one thing and trying to get rid of the other. And in that conceptual understanding, it's where the conflict is. And conflict makes you uneasy. And uneasiness is what you call dis-ease. And see how that functions. Something comes up and you like it. How do you know? Well, you've had this before, and we like it, it's good. And naturally we don't want the good things to go. Realise there's nothing static. Everything is transient. It's constantly changing. Nothing static. We don't want it to go. So what do? We try to keep it there. We resist it from going. And that's where the initial resistance comes about. And not realising that everything is transient, and have a look at that. That body that you walked into this room with is not the same body. You look into it and investigate, you'll see there are thousands of cells dying at it right at this moment and being replaced. And each cell is replaced by a fresh and new cell which is full of intelligence, energy. It knows what to do. Because a skin cell won't replace a liver cell, and a heart cell won't replace a brain cell. Each cell suffused with that innate knowing or intelligence knows what to do. And how did it all come about? It came about with this seeming birth of this thing we call the person, this body-mind. But can you remember your birth? And you'll look at it, you realise you can't remember your birth. why can't you remember your birth? Purely and simply because you had no words then. You didn't have any words for the first couple of years of your life until you learnt them. So you lived for the first couple of years of your life without the word. And when we learnt words, we came to believe that the word was real. And that's when our problems started, because that's when the sense of separation came upon us. The like, the dislike, the pleasure, the pain, the happiness, the sadness, all related to its opposite. Otherwise, if you're not dividing it or not relating it, it's just as it is, right here, right now, present and aware. So something comes up, and as I say, you like it, we don't want it to go, not realising that no matter how much you love it, how you'd like to keep it there, how you'd like to hang on to it and believe it, it's going to change. And that's the trouble. We try to keep it there because we think we can keep it there. We can't. But look at nature. The earth is rolling around the sun. At this particular moment, this side of the earth is facing the sun. And what's there? There's light. And the other half of the earth is facing away from the sun. What's there? Darkness. Does the earth know anything about light or darkness? It doesn't. And does the sun know anything about light or darkness? It doesn't. Just the way it is. But the seeming changes in the patterns and the belief goes into it. But it's never changed its true nature, though it appears to be so. It's seemingly so. And this phenomenal manifestation, that's what they call it, all this manifestation, they call it in Hinduism, Advaita, is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nama, Rupa. They're the five factors. Sat is existence. Chit is consciousness. Ananda is bliss or loving to be. And Ananda is loving to be. And the Nama, Rupa, the other two factors, are the name and the form, which relate to the body as the form, and the name we've given it as the name and form. Now they tell you clearly, the ancient traditions, which I said there, that Nama, Rupa, body, mind, are Maya. They're illusion. And just recognise that, you see it's so. This body, mind, this conceptual image you have about yourself, is Maya. It's illusory. And so the Sat, Chit, Ananda, Sat is existence. Anyone who's not existing right now, you'll say, no, I'm existing. And you know that you are. You can't go, am I conscious? Well, I'm not unconscious, or I'm not unaware, so I must be conscious and must be aware. Am I happy to be? Well, you of the opportunity of being dead right now, would you take it? So you'd rather be than not be. So you already are that Sat, Chit, Ananda. But then we tag onto it the body, mind, the name and the form. But I'm Bob, the Australian. Good catch.
Good catch, very good.
Reflexes are not too bad yet. Put it up with the Parkinson's. So where was I up to? Somewhere.
Good and bad.
The Bob the Australian. I'm Bob the Australian. Good fella.
Yeah. Yes, that's the thing. So, but when I learn words, and the parents still call me Bob, and I'm a good little boy, and I'm this, that, and the other, and I'm Australian, and of course believing in the words. But if we're getting back to the Sat, Chit, Ananda, you are already existing, you are already conscious, and you're already happy to be. So you're already that. So what are we searching for? When we think we've got to become that, not realising when you investigate you already are that. And becoming is not being. Becoming implies a future time. And when you investigate that concept of time and ask yourself, is there a past if I don't think about it? Well, you'll say, I was in the past. And I'll say to you, well, try and live yesterday. If you're in the past, go back and live yesterday. You can't live yesterday. Try and live a moment ago. And you realise you can't even go back and live a moment ago now unless you recall it. If you're not recalling it, you can't tell me what you thought a minute ago now unless you're recalling it. If it's not there in your recollection, it's gone. But we keep resurrecting it and believing in it by putting a time base on it. So time is a mental concept. And without time, what's there? Well, time is past and future. Well, past is dead, it's gone. Future hasn't arrived yet. Presence is the actuality. But how long lasting is that? What time is that? Town bound? It isn't. It's spontaneous. Because grasp hold of it. When does now begin? You'll say it's beginning right now. I've got it. But as soon as you've said that, it's finished. But it's beginning again, and it's finished again. So it's non-conceptual, beginningless, endless. That is the timeless. That is the spontaneous timelessness, which you actually are. Presence or awareness. Presence, break that down to pre-sense. What's the senses? Senses are thoughts, feelings and emotions. As soon as that sense comes up, I am or I like it or not. But prior to the senses, what's there? What can you say about it? Well, you can't say it's good, you can't say it's bad, you can't say anything at all about it if you haven't got this concept, this word that you've learned. So it's prior, when it's prior to the senses, it's prior to the thoughts, feelings and emotions. And you know that you were that pre-sense awareness before you learnt any words to discriminate it. For the first couple of years of your life. That's why you can't remember your birth, because you had no words then. But people learn words now and say they take it back. Oh yes, I remember when I was born, I remember this, I remember past lives. Remember all these things. What's remembering? It's recalling. Are you recalling the actual? Or what you believe was the actual? Because when you can't recall the actual. The actual is spontaneous, here, now, presence awareness. And it doesn't last, it's transient, it's constantly changing. But you are that. As I say, something comes up, you like it. And the good things, we don't want to go. We don't like the bad. We don't like the opposites. So we want the good. Not realising that, as we pointed out earlier, it's all transient. It's constantly changing. And remember, this body's changing right now at this moment. There are thousands of cells dying in it right now and being replaced. We don't want it to go. So, we want to keep it there, want it good there. So we try to keep it there, not realising no matter how much you love it, it's going to change on anyway. So what do? We resist it from going. We keep trying to keep it there. I've got to hang on to this one and get rid of the bad one. So instead of seeing that they're codependent, not interdependent, couldn't be one without the other, We're trying to get rid of the one and keep the other. And it doesn't happen. And it won't happen. While ever you're thinking along those lines, believing along those lines. So, when that is going on, there's conflict. Trying to keep it there, you're stopping it from moving along, from being transient, so you're in conflict with it, you're at war with it. And with that conflict comes fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, remorse, unhappiness. All your psychological suffering comes about from this constant resistance that's going on. So you see that resistance is conflict. And conflict is disease, it's uneasiness. So what happens when the bad things come? Oh, I shouldn't be thinking this. I don't want this. I've got to get rid of it. Instead of leaving that as it is, not understanding that it will change by itself. And we'll have a look at that in a minute also. We try to hang on to the bad, to get rid of the bad, I should say, instead of hanging on to it. And so we resist it again from going. And again there's conflict. And in that conflict comes up the fear, the anxiety, the remorse, the guilt. All the psychological suffering comes up. And it makes us uneasy. So that's what our life is made up of. Constant resistance, conflict and disease. This is all our anxiety, stress, unhappiness. We don't stay with the reality for very long at all. We're constantly trying to alter it, modify it and correct it. Instead of leaving it as it is. Now if we look out there in nature, as I say, the sun's rolling around the earth. The earth's rolling around the sun, I should say. And it's day and it's night. Now, then it's winter, then it's summer, then it's all these other things. It's raining, it's storming. The pairs of opposites are constantly functioning. But are they in resistance? They're not. They come and go, change. But it's with us resisting these thoughts. And that's what needs to happen. And you look at it and see, me is the cause of all my psychological suffering. For it's only me that can be fearful. It's only me that can be unhappy, distressed, guilty. So me is the cause of my psychological suffering. And the
shame, guilt, anger, remorse. All this stuff is a consequence.
Yeah, all that suffering is all mental concepts relating to the me. So if me is the cause and the effects are the anxiety, the fear, the stress, isn't that what so-called karma is? Cause and effect. What happened if you ask yourself this simple question? Can there be an effect if I'm not relating to the cause? If I'm not relating things to this me, this cause, can there be an effect? Well, if there's no relativity, no relationship going on, everything is recognised just as it is and left as it is, where can the effects lodge? So you can be free of all that psychological suffering. Because it's only me that's unhappy, only me that's fearful, only me that's remorseful or whatever it is. Me is that cause. But you need to look at this me. See for yourself whether this me is a fiction or not. Am I this body? Am I this mind? I'm saying this me is I am. That's a thought, the primary thought, the basic thought. What's it mean? It means that sense of presence, the knowing that I am. Now words have come upon it. It translates as the thought, I am. But we believe that I am to be the person, the me. And you can't do much with the I am of itself. So what do we do to it? We add on these concepts. Oh, they told me, I'm Bob, I'm Australian, I'm a good fellow, I'm not so good, I'm unhappy, I'm fearful, I'm having a bad trot, people don't like me. All these other concepts are added onto it and polluted it, corrupted it, instead of being in its natural purity, natural state. Now it's got all these concepts, ideas and images on it. And everything can be relative to those images. So now I've got something to relate it to, this conceptual image. In its basic presence awareness, I've got nothing to relate it to without the concept. And that's why they call it, in Buddhism, they call it the great perfection. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect. What can you take away from the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect. So they say it's all perfect. And they give it in one sentence. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Now that awareness we just pointed out before, that you're not unaware right now, so you must be aware. But we've added all these concepts to it. If you take away the concepts, what is it? It must be a non-conceptual awareness. And what's wrong with it then, if it's not conceptual? Can you say it's good? Can you say it's bad? Can you say it's pleasant, painful, happy? You can't say anything at all about it without putting the concepts on. So it's still the great perfection, or another way they put it is the absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Nothing at all. What can you take away from it? So without the concepts, you are already that absolute, which patterning, shaping, forming and pairing as these separate entities. But that's what it is. It's a pattern, a vibrating pattern of energy, patterning into shapes, forms. It's a cognising emptiness, as the Buddha called it. We think we cognise or know that emptiness. We don't. It's emptiness that has that capacity of cognising. And he made the statement that emptiness is form, pointing out that all this manifestation, as we see it and know it, is form. Because he turned it around the other way and said the form, though it's appearing as form, can be nothing other than the emptiness. So emptiness is form, and form is nothing other than the emptiness. We'll have a look at that. Now you've got all this manifestation. All appears to be real and solid. But it's all the cognising emptiness that's patterning, shaping and forming it all. It's only appearing to be real. And it's what they call a phenomenal manifestation. Because they say, look at that word phenomenal. A word we've learnt. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So this manifestation, including you, me, and everything else appears in it, when taking it to be real, it's only appearance. It's Maya, they call it Maya, or illusion. It's an illusory appearance which we take to be real, separate, apart, individual. But it's not. It's not it's all the one essence appearing as the many. And it's never changed its true nature. And as long as we believe in the sense of separation, there'll be problems for it. And in recognising the absoluteness and the reality, and it's constantly transient, leaving it as it is, it's bound to change. It can't do anything else because it's a vibration. It's a movement of energy. And it's constantly vibrating. Are you this body? Innately you know you're not the body because you say my body. Don't you say my car, my house, my coat? You're not the car, you know that. You're not the house, or you're not the coat. Well, maybe you're not the body either, if you look into it. And when you do look into it, you see you're not the body. What's the body made up of? It's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you. Well, try and separate yourself from those elements. Take the air out of your body. See how long you'd last without the air. Take the fire, the body temperature. See how long you'd last without that element. Take the water, your body's 60% water. You wouldn't last long without that element. Get off the earth you can. You can't live off that element, earth. Get out of space. So you realise you're not separate from those elements. And all those elements can be broken down into subatomic particles into pure energy. So all this manifestation is a vibrating pattern of energy, which vibrates into all this amazing, wondrous ways and appears as solid, real, and substantial. So you're already that. Well, what about the thing called mind? Again, you say, my mind. All right, well, show me your mind. If you think you've got a mind, show me it. I can't show you anything at all that I can call mind. And when I investigate it, I see that there's no such thing as mind apart from thought. And if mind is thought, and I'm a thought, which particular thought would I be? And I believe I am this I am thought. But am I that thought? Well, if I was that thought, I'd be frightened of losing it. But I gladly give it up every night when I go to sleep. That points out that I can't be that thought. So if I'm not the thought, and what is thought? Well, I investigate and see what thought is. Thought is sound. Sound's a vibration. A vibration is word. Comes out as word. Sound's vibration. A vibration's a movement of energy. So thought is nothing but this vibrating pattern of energy. So I can't say I'm this body. I can't say I am this mind. But I can't negate that beingness. I can't say I am not either. So I am. And without the word I am, I must be the life itself. Not the person. And look at that. You take the life out of that body, what do you got? You've got a corpse. Now that corpse, before it breaks down and rots, has got eyes, still, it's got ears, it's got heart, lung, kidney, liver, all the organs are still there. But what good are they without that life? The body can't do anything at all. The analogy I use to compare it with is like the computer. You've got all that amazing and wondrous information in your computer. Amazing information there. But you can punch those keys as much as you like and run the mouse over it as much as you like. If the power's not turned on, what are you going to get out of it? Nothing. So what must it be that's in the computer? It must be the power that's enabling those things to form and pattern express. And what must it be in this body-mind? It is the life itself that's enabled these pattern shapes and forms to play around and express. And what must you be? You must be that life itself. Because that's before all beginnings and after all endings. It's that sense of presence, the knowing that you are. And you're nothing other than that. So that's what we point out. I ask you to look along those lines, investigate and see for yourself, because I can tell you quite often, and there's no use me telling you unless you see it for yourself. And you've probably had tastes of it, you have had tastes of it, or you wouldn't be looking into this from this point of view. You'd still be out there believing in some higher power that's going to restore you to sanity, and you've got to go and find him, and you've got to become like it. But becoming is not being. You take yourself to be this human being, and we think we're going to become realised. But being can never become anything, because the being is the actuality. And you call yourself a human being, and you call God the supreme being. What if you take away that word human and take away the word supreme? Try and separate the beingness that's with you right now. Try and say, I am not. You can say it as much as you like, but this common sense will tell you there's something there that I know is the beingness. So you know you are already that. You can't negate it. That's what we ask you to look at. As I say, some of you have gone a long way with it, some of you have recognised a lot of it, some of you are still questioning, and if you've got questions to ask or doubts, ask them. It's the only way to find out. Or if you've seen through it, tell us what you've seen. But I'll ask Kat to say a few words and then open it up for questioning and arguments and all the rest of it. So away you go.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of comments from people who are watching with us online. Sorry, darling. Hi, everyone. So this is a couple of good morning messages, and then Bill says, love you all. All is love. And space is, says Matthew. It was when you were talking about space, he commented. And now we have Amarnath saying, I am not I. Body, in the brackets, body, mind, God, and world. And he also says that 5 elements are also phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And Amarnath also says we are trapping ourselves trying to become is impossible. But mind tries the same without knowing who am I. Fun game of mind. And a lot of smiley faces. Also, I had suggestion from people who are watching YouTube recording later on. I don't know who it was. Was it one person or was it a group of persons who call themselves we? They wish that we don't use microphone. So they would like us not to use microphone. They say they can hear everyone in the room perfectly well. I don't know how big the group of the we was, if that was 1 or 2 persons or that was hundreds who watch. So I would like to open it for people who are with us right now. There's 25 people with us right now. And I would request anyone from the back of the room to say something and see how audible you are. So whether we do need to pass the mic or we don't need to pass the mic. Of course, it would be wonderful if we don't need it. But if the group of we is just a couple of people who have very good speakers and anyone else wouldn't be able to hear what people say, then of course we have to apologize for the swearing couple that and attend to the needs of the majority. So, Jacinta, would you like to say something, maybe?
Yeah, okay. I think, I've been coming here for a while. Sometimes it's really still hard to get rid of the identity of the story. There's times when I can do it, and other times when the story just wants to keep playing along.
Yeah, so now if anyone who is listening online could actually hear very well what Jacinta was saying, talking about the story of me returning, and please confirm. If not, Michael already says definitely needing a microphone. So
Okay.
yes, so sorry for the people who were disappointed in the procedure. We have Dean today to help, so that will be easier. And okay, before the mic is ready, I'll see if there's any more comment. Yes, Jane agrees with Michael, and Primali could hear, and David could hear. So half of the people who are commenting couldn't hear, the other half could hear. So we'll just add the microphone. The thing there is behind you.
Can you center again?
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the same question again?
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I have times when I can understand that the character's not real, but there's times when it just feels so real, and you just keep fighting it in your head, and you just want it to go away and come back into your heart. But at times, I don't know, even though I know it's happening, I actually hate it happening, the story coming up.
Yeah, that's
This is the ultimate question that everybody comes to in this. It always crops up again and again and again. It's, if you don't mind, is it okay that I answer?
Please,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, well, the answer is even in your your denial of oneness, you are that. You can't help but be oneness. I think for me, a great practice was just simply to say and remind myself that this too does not prove that I'm not that. This too does not prove that I'm not that. I know it might sound a bit complicated, but nothing proves that you are not that, right? And in fact, everything is supporting that. Even your denial, because basically the separate self, this sort of construct of a separate self, which is occurring within the great framework of that, isn't it? Is dedicated to the denial of the oneness, right? Because if you don't, we were talking about it earlier, Bob, if you don't have a problem, you are one, right? The oneness is problemless, and in order to support your notion of separateness, you must have a problem. Right? You have a problem. You have something to work against. Yeah. So without that, you are kind of in a sea of unknowing, a sea of oneness, if you like, a sea of everything occurring. And for an instant, the separate self, which is that which is the only one impossible thing in the mind of God, if you like, which is dedicated to proving that you are not that. Right? That's what this construct of a separate self is. Don't you agree? So I wouldn't put any emphasis on that. Just see it as it is. Oh, there it is again. And, but the other thing to remember is there's no outcome here. The outcomes only refer to a separate self that is lacking in some way. There's no outcome. You already have everything that you are right there, and it doesn't matter what goes on here. This life is going to play out just as it is. And as Bob says time and time again, if you just sit and let it play out, don't interact. There's no need to do anything about it because there is no problem in truth. If we try that and just let that happen, you'll see. This is my experience anyway, which is a strange thing to say, isn't it? Always, this is my experience. But what can we do? Because all interaction is. We're in an impossible situation trying to communicate in that sense, aren't we, as separate selves. Yeah, well, that's enough. I've said enough. Thank you. Thanks for that. Bringing that up because it's everybody's essential problem there.
That's beautiful, Peter, and thank you. I was just going to add to it a couple of words when you say, Jacinta, that the story comes up, and you hate it. You don't like it. Sometimes when it's cold, you don't like it. When you're hungry, you don't like it. When there is a pain in the body, you don't like it. But who doesn't like it? Maybe there is no one who doesn't like it. Maybe it is just the pain in the body, or the story in the head, or the rain, or the cold, and the idea that this is unpleasant. Maybe this is just part of the landscape. The situation, life situation arises, and the judgment arises. They all arise in that space that you are. There is no difference between the arising pain and arising judgment of pain or thought of pain. But the thought contains the magic word I. The thought says, I don't like it. I want to get rid of it. I want a pleasure. I don't want this one. And that thought hypnotizes us into believing that there is someone there who doesn't like it. And that someone there is the problem. And how do I get rid of the someone there? Well, I cannot do that because I is a thought. I cannot get rid of the I, just like Bob was quoting Bunky, that you can't wash away blood with blood. Ego cannot kill the ego because only ego remains. But if you really see it for what it is, the arising story, arising idea, I don't want a story, arising idea, I prefer blissful silence to the turmoil of the emotional storm. And then you see, there is just an idea of I arising as a part of the landscape with the judgment of what is the landscape. If you then just move back a little bit and you see the whole thing arising, story, judgment over the story, me not wanting the story, preferring something else, which is part of the story, then you are watching as that space-like awareness, and you're free, and you laugh. Of course I don't like, there is a foul smell going. Well, understandably so, there is a dislike to it, and of course, you're not crazy to like something that is painful or unpleasant or smelly. That's fine. And then there is no resistance to not liking. There is no judgment over not liking. Not liking is perfectly fine. Not liking the story arising, all right, okay, that's what also arises. But I am okay with all of it. I, the space, the emptiness. How could the emptiness have judgment about anything? It isn't even there to judge it. So there is a story, there is the me that judges the story, there is a preference, all of it arises, and space doesn't mind. There is a screen, like Bob often comes up with that idea of the screen, and shooting Indians and what the others, cowboys. Screen doesn't mind. They shoot each other. There is blood. Screen does not mind. And you are that screen. So there is, if you are the cowboy and they are shooting at you, of course, ouch, that's not good. But if you really step back and you realize that you're not that cowboy or not that Indian, you're the screen. You stride away, move out from minding to not minding. You are the witnessing of that character having preference for pleasure. And that character will always and ever have preference for pleasure, because that's how the survival instinct of the body-mind machinery is constructed. And that's healthy. There are people who have preference for pain, but this is because they linked it with pleasure. So, yeah, wonderful, and thank you for sharing that, because yes, ultimately, as Peter was saying, this is all what it boils down to. Moment-to-moment application of understanding that yes, I am not that, what arising. I am the totality or the oneness or the emptiness in which it arises.
You're not that informed, but you are that in essence.
True, yes.
Can
Aye.
I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Please?
Yes, thank you.
I don't know how coherent this will be, but it's following on from what we're talking about. There's a saying in the third patriarch of the Zen, which is, the way is perfect for people who have no preferences.
Oh, yeah.
And I get that, and I certainly have embraced that in my life, to an extent. So those small petty preferences that we create in our day-to-day lives, I can let those go. But in this world that I find myself in now, when my 5-year-old granddaughter may be killed by a mandated medical procedure, I find it extremely difficult to have no preferences around that. I find it extremely difficult not to be disturbed mentally by that. And the very idea of kind of not engaging with that,
You're going to engage anyway.
it's the
Already have.
so I'm finding myself in a world where, you know, petty preferences, that's fine, but these are real consequences that we're having to live with. And I know it's not doing my mental health any good, so I don't want to be disturbed by it. But I'm not sure how to navigate that. So I'm wondering if Bob could say something about that.
That's a big point. You want to comment on that, David?
Yeah. Great way, not difficult for those who have no preferences. Yeah. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. Like,
He's quoting Sinsin Ming, the patriarch, Zen patriarch. Make the smallest distinction, however, and the heaven and earth is set infinitely apart. That's what follows. The great way is not difficult when there is no preferences.
and then it says, hold no opinions for or against anything.
Hold no
If
opinion.
you're holding no opinion, well, you're static there. But you're free to go with the flow if you're not holding. Or you're not holding any preferences. And the way the thinking functions is constantly in the opposites. And that's the trouble. We like one part and not the other. But see, it's all the one essence. It couldn't be good without bad. So it's not independent, you know. So leave it as it is, and it changes of itself. You'll find yourself doing whatever you think is necessary to do. It might be out in what do they call it? Protesting or doing something, really, or you may not, you know. But
Are you saying that whatever I decide to do about this situation I find myself in, and I recognise I have an attachment to my granddaughter, but whatever I decide to do, I do it with neutrality?
That's probably a healthiest way to do that. Just not taking credit. It is a difficult situation, of course. If you know, I know people who believe that their life is in danger because there is a poison in the water, there is a fluoride in the water, and they hate the government, the world for the fluoride in the water. There is a lead in the air. There is a lot of additives in the food, and they absolutely drive themselves mad, obsessing about it. That their children, their grandchildren, people, the animal. Even the animals are getting cancer like crazy, cats and dogs, because of the stuff that is in the carpet, the stuff that is in the wall. And the moment I or anyone would start really thinking about it, the whole chemical factory will create adrenaline, cortisol, and it drive itself mad and will probably get sick. The way to do it is to not think about it, not obsess about it, but let the energy move through you. If you are meant to go on the barricade and stop the process or protest or maybe fight for the clean water without fluoride, or electric cars on the street without lead, because that is also a killer. As much as the vaccine or anything else can kill the child, the drunk driver can kill the child, anything can kill the child. If we really start torturing ourselves, visualizing all that is not happening right now, but could possibly happen in the parallel universe of the nightmare, yeah, that doesn't do the mental health very well, which does not say to not move with the energy. If the energy flows, that you want to be a climate change activist and you want to be anti-vax or whatever the energy move, there is nothing good or bad in the movement of energy. What is unnecessary is the suffering coming with it in the narrative that projects all that hatred. Oh, the governments want to depopulate the planet, they all want to kill us, destroy us, they all evil. That is just a narrative. We don't know if that's true. I don't say that it's not, maybe it is, but we don't know it. And staying in the I don't know mind is staying in the no mind. This is being the space. I don't say that it is the truth. My mind doesn't project it, honestly. I'm happy for that, really. But I don't project otherwise either. So really being, I don't know. And just moving with the flow, with the empty mind and a light heart, feeling that, okay, that's where the energy moves you. Like Bob says, you may find yourself on the barricades. You may find yourself writing petitions or finding out whatever a way to fake the certificate. I don't know. Whatever life moves you to do, you do without that sense of righteousness. I know I'm right. This is what I believe. This is not a belief. This is the ultimate reality. This is truth. Because the reality is not the content of the dream. This is not the reality. This world, this way we interpret sounds, sights, it's not the reality. It's the constructed dream, phenomenal dream. All of it is empty. None of that is real. It's a belief that makes it real. And it's belief that makes it really heavy and really painful. So there is a way, and it's not easy. It's not like you switch off your thinking or you're obsessing or you worry. You can't do that. It's because you didn't start it. Thinking, obsessing, and worrying is a program that comes from years of conditioning or whatever. But this identifying and witnessing that program in impersonal manner, that's the way. If I am the space-like awareness, within me that character plays out, and that character has this sort of a perspective, a worldview, or belief, and I see how it gets engaged, what emotions are being stirred, how the heart is being contracted, how the shoulders are clenching whenever the thought arises, and I witness whatever the landscape come up, but I am still a witness, I am still the space. That's just so much lighter. And I'm really sorry for what you're going through, because I've seen it, we both seen it a lot. A lot of people were calling us and talking with us with the same sense of distress about a future which is uncertain, and it always is. This situation might resolve tomorrow, and day after tomorrow something else will come and create the same distress. Or someone will call you to court, or someone will abuse you or bully you. Life always brings up the situation in which the response can be from that very, very personal, very narrative, worrisome survival instinct, which prioritizes danger and want to mitigate it, or recognition that, oh, this is a thought. This is not what is here now. It's not happening. And then moving with the flow. And I hope it will happen, because my heart goes out to quite a few of our really dear friends, and we are on daily basis contacting them, how they also have young children or grandchildren and facing the same issue, that, yeah, we don't know what's there. We don't know what's going to happen. But the truth is, yeah, well, we don't know what's going to happen when they go to school. There may be a school shooting. We really don't know. And it doesn't mean that we should just completely ignore the risks, no. But doing it with the open mind and peaceful heart, and just with the action thought rather than that worry, which what it does, it drains the energy, and then there is no energy for action anymore. Most of the people just worry, and they don't really do much. They complain because it really takes away it's just so much power goes into the drain. And as Bob often says, whatever the content of the dream, it never stays the same. It will change. The darkest nightmare, the heaviest horror is temporary. Yes, it won't last.
Go on.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thanks. Oops. Yeah. I mean, my comments on is just to do whatever needs to be done, sort of thing. Whatever brings us, I wouldn't advocate as to you should do this or shouldn't or anything, So whatever, whatever sort of, method that's best suitable, just do that. The way I've sort of been looking at things is more on a Buddhist level, but I don't even like to put a term on it, is that what takes place in your situation or anything is just conditions coming together. And when those conditions come together, like let's say a person, when the conditions of parents come together, bodies form or something or other, then a person, supposedly, I'm not saying the person's real, then a person appears. So the person is just a bunch of conditions coming together. Now, to give an example that can take the stress off the things that are happening, if you take the simple example of fire depends on fuel, oxygen and a spark. Take away the oxygen, there's no fire. Now, if you've got, but the fire, even when the fire is manifesting, that fire depends on oxygen, fuel, and so on. That's what's maintaining that fire. So the fire itself is dependent on other factors, and there's no independent thing called fire there. So even when fire is manifesting, there is no independent entity called fire. Now, even while there's a supposed human being manifesting and appearing, this human being depends on aggregates, depends on food and so on. So there's no independent entity called a person or a self or anything, even while it's manifesting, because this entity depends on other things. And so in that respect, what's going on is really, can take the sting out of it a bit, because you realise that you actually can't pin anything down and isolate something, like even suffering. We think that suffering really exists. It's real. We're sure, see? And that's what causes our stress, is because we think things inherently exist, that they're really there. Suffering really, it's a real thing. And we'll defend it. We'll swear black and blue. But suffering depends on a sufferer, or it depends on some aggregates, a body. So suffering isn't this real independent thing. This can take this little bit of the sting out of things being real, there. Now, I repeat, you will do whatever we need to do, for sure. But just sort of eliminating, and I sort of look at things more in terms of not what's taking place, but the conditions behind it. That's what it's the conditions that let's say it's suffering. It can be the conditions of someone said an insulting remark. Now that was one of the conditions for suffering. Another condition, you'd need to hear that remark, and so on. So the suffering is, and so on, is going to depend on a whole lot of other factors, and suffering, one of the factors will be dependence on mandates, and so on. They'll be just conditions that things are dependent on, and so the actual suffering, let's say, is not a real independent thing, and that's a transformation where our mind is now starting to see through the suffering, let's say, that it's not a real thing. Beforehand, we've got suffering as a real entity. It's inherent, it's there, it's real. Now this is starting to reduce the impact of it, where perhaps it's not as real as what we thought it was. I'll let someone else have a go.
Can I say something?
If you don't mind. Yeah, you going to hold it? Yeah, that's great. What is the thing that you would most like to bring to this terrible situation of the conflict with people about COVID-19? Wouldn't it be the realization of your own unity, the realization that you are that? And so herein lies the solution to all things, doesn't it? It's like, the answer to all things lies in Buddha mind, simply letting it go. I remember once I had a big fight with this woman in an organisation I was associated with, and I consulted a wise woman who was a friend of mine, and I said, look, I can't solve this dilemma, it's really binding me up. And she said, well, just drop the ball. Drop the soccer ball and go home. Go home to Buddha mind. Go home just to the equanimity of what you are right now in this instant. There's nothing you can do right now anyway, is there? Right now, can we do anything about anything right now? And the more we seek this realization of truth, then the other takes care of itself. I find I don't make decisions, don't make any decisions at all. I just seek Buddha mind, and the life that is inherent in all things is what is Buddha mind. Sorry, is pure awareness. Just shows the way. We only, you see, we are, as this so-called separate self, occurring only within the oneness of life itself. Is just remember, it's dedicated to being separate. That's what its job is. If you like, we just quietly undo that by bringing it back to the equanimity of knowing that I'm that, and nothing here can prove that I am not that. Right? Yeah. And you are that. You're the most beautiful thing in the universe. Right? What proves that you are not that? Can anyone here say that you cannot see and experience your life in the life of this apparent individual over there? This is what the beauty of it all is. Yeah? This is where you start to get into the meat of the actual kind of inherent. You just begin to that is has no real attributes, but it's like its nature is bliss. Its nature is just the realization of the absolute searing beauty of life in everything, even this conflict. Okay, I'm going to zip it now.
Beautiful, Peter. Thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And also the fact, the recognition, the even worry is only there because of love. It's only because of that loving care, love for life, love well, we may call it attachment. That's the wrong word, because if you look at the animals, they look after their youngs, and they don't call it attachment. They don't give it a nasty words. That is just love flowing through life. And when it goes to the mind, when it stays in the heart, it is love. When it goes to the mind, it comes up as a story of worry, or this is wrong, this should be fixed. It's all that. But yeah, who are you when you don't think about it right in this moment? That Bob's beautiful quote of what's wrong with right now, and now, and now, and now. And then right action comes when it's required. But I would also like to include few people that are with us online who may have even better, more resonating comment to that situation, which is, oh gosh, it's quite a few. Yes, few more people actually prefer microphone than non-microphone, so is solved. there will be traveling of microphone. A few more people commented. Now, Tanya says, leaving it as it is seen that all is just happening and no one has ever done anything, but doing happens. There is no one way to be. Irritation, annoyance, or anger is expressed, but intelligence energy does not juggle those vibrations of energy. That seems like a true freedom. Beautiful. And J. Kai says, oh, that was about the microphone and the noises close to it. Amarnath also about the microphone. Yeah, we sorted. There was quite a few more voices that it is required. Primali says, I thought is okay. It is part of life. You are nothing and everything. Amarnath says, beautiful. No need to prove I am this or I am not that. Pure I am without any words or attachments. Male without I or attachment. Thankful, grateful to Peter. Most blissful words. Love you, dear. Yeah, we love you too. And thank you. And Jane says, nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Yes, good point, Jane. I think this one is a little bit wrongly said. And Amarnath says, story starts with I, you, he, all are false. Still we can enjoy story without enjoyer. Wonderfully nothing, says Ram. And Amarnath, Bob and Kat helped me to come out of trap of becoming I or me. Ever grateful. Regards and infinite love. Love to you, Amarnath. Thank you. And Jane says, the me that doesn't like it is the memory. The story is never the real. Absolutely. As harsh as it may sound, yes, that is a past memory, past conditioning that is resonating with this version of a story and not the other. That's the personal sort of image. Because not everyone has the same feeling. Everyone has a different take on things, and that's the me from the past. Thank you, Jane. And Jane also says there is either attraction or repulsion. That's it. And that's a brilliant way Jane often brings up, quoting Bob. That's how little children behave, attraction or repulsion. That's how animals behave. And on top of that attraction or repulsion, we have the narrative giving us a big drama. Julia, American Julia says, my favorite worry chart is coming to mind, Kat. Yes, Julia's got a worry chart which says, can you do something about it? Yes, go and do it. No, don't worry. Right now, if you cannot do anything about it, well, then don't worry. Whatever can be done. Yes, Julia, thank you for that. It is a little sort of an NLP board showing the chart of. Amarnath says, very sad to know your granddaughter's story. Very sorry. I ourselves said no preferences. No one is doer, neither doctor, not the procedure. I cannot become grandmother, but at the same time drama of grandmother plays. Attachment, grandmother, granddaughter is an illusion. It's just love. Attachment is a story. Amarnath's misery frequently leads to self-inquiry and self-realization. He quotes Ramana Maharshi. And that's true. I actually heard few success stories of people who were going through the same ordeal, absolute torture and ordeal, and they used it as a tool whenever it was unbearable, the pain, the resistance, the disappointment, unbearable. That was the wake-up call, to look what's wrong if you're not thinking, and finding...
What's the quote again?
There was someone who says that misery frequently leads to self-inquiry and self-realization. That was Amarnath quoting Ramana Maharshi. And we have one of our girlfriends was going through that type of an ordeal, and she translated it into a reminder. The more persistent the suffering because of that thought was, the more she remembered to look and see what is wrong with this moment right now, if that thought is not present, and realize that it's not only nothing wrong, but she's still there, she's present, she's alive, she's knowing, she's happy to be. And that realization is ultimately realization that the thought is secondary. As Bob was hammering down, there is a knowing, being, seeing, hearing, being, existing prior to the thinking. The thinking comes next. The thinking is the source of the story, the suffering. Without the thinking, nothing is ever wrong. So thank you for that, Amarnath. And Jane says, answering Ram, that it sure does. I'm not sure what Ram was saying. I'll have a look. No, it doesn't. Primali says, everything is a story. Whatever your beliefs are, all stories. Well, unfortunately, that's the truth. Just like in the dream at night. My favorite story is my relationship with this guy. There's no relationship, there's no this guy, there's no world. And it's a beautiful story which is totally loved and appreciated. The whole dream is fully appreciated when it is known for what it is. And when it is known that who you are can never be hurt. And no death and no...
So it's just a projection.
Yeah, it's the interpretation. It's the yes, they call it constructed. It's a constructed reality, which comes from interpreting impulses by the machine which encodes through the conditioning and learning. That's how the brain operates. The little baby, when it is born, it doesn't even understand the images or sounds, nothing. It learns how to create and construct the worlds. And then the language comes and seal it up.
That's why it's all a dream.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you dream at night, and how real does that look? Totally real. It's not to dismiss it, because there is, the way the brilliance of that intelligence or that absolute manifests itself lies in the fact that it is so incredibly convincing that nobody even dares to look further and question it. That's the brilliance of it. The more convincing it is, it's just like you watch a good movie. The good movie makes you forget that you're watching. It takes you completely for the ride.
And why is it set up that way? Why is it all set up that way?
Because it can. Why does it express in the ultimate brilliance? Ultimate brilliance. Because it can. If it was a cheap sort of a cartoon facade that anyone can easily see through, what's the point?
Well, it doesn't need to give an explanation.
No, and that's absolutely right, Peter. Yeah, there is no... The question why and the answer why are the stories. And we may love the stories, and I love few stories about why. Why the world, why suffering, why separation. They're entertaining stories, but nothing but stories. There's no truth in any story. It's just a part of the entertainment. I'm just going to continue because there's few more comments here. So, as Primali was saying, absolutely, everything is a story. Whatever your beliefs are, all stories. All stories. I'm the human being, Bob was pointing out. I'm a poor, miserable human being. I'm a woman. That's a story. I'm the body. That's a story. I'm my personality. Story. Polish, Australian, whatever it is. All story. Amarnath, kill the killer. I, mind, trap. Do last rites of its death too. And a lot of icons as usually. Great explanation, Kat. Primali says, thank you. The story is never the real. See what comes up in the moment, Jane says. Absolutely. And Amarnath, Bob frequently says thinking is trap. If I do not think grandmother or doctor or event, there is no time, place, person or notions. Thinking, yes, now itself is uncertain. There is no time at all. It's timeless. Yes, that's Amarnath. American Julia says now, since the false cannot sound up to investigation, I really love this form of investigation. If you are not the body, mind, memory, emotion, belief, or everything existing within the illusion of time or space, can you find the one who cares or can fix the problem? Yep. Can you? If any thought of who am I is pushed aside, is there anybody there? Can there anybody be found?
Can I say something?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Just, I think it's really just fascinating to take this inquiry down a step before. We're out there seeking for a solution to problems of mental construction. It's like, the problems arise all the time because that's what separate selves are dedicated to, God bless us. And, that's what we're engaged in. We're engaged in, as separate individuals, if you like, engaged in trying to solve a problem. But and this is what the human separate construction depends on going in that direction. So, but if we take it back a step and you just look and you see, okay, I feel this problem rising. Now, I can go out looking for a solution, or I can just take a step back, another step back. And what would that step back be, do you think? It would be in consideration of what is the, where does this problem arise? Yeah? Where is it arising? Who's the cause of this problem? It's arising spontaneously, if you like, in my mind, isn't it? But if you just see it and let it drift away, then you are just reverting to the, if you like, your true nature, which is simply awareness of everything arising and falling here in this pattern of trying to define yourself as something. Trying to grab the universe and stop it dead and say, yes, I know now. I know what I am. Yeah. So I think that's a really good practice. Just simply ask yourself, who is the progenitor of this story, and do I have anything to do with it, really? Yeah. And do I need to step out and solve the problem thereby? Why don't I try something else? And as they say, the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again without any result. And because this is all ephemeral, you will find no result. There's no result. There's nothing to grab here, is there? The nicest thing, loving relationships. Where are they? I remember waking up next to my second wife, I think it was, and she said to me, "Who the hell?" She had an American accent. She said, "Who the fuck are you?" And I had to agree with her. Needless to say, that was the termination of our relationship. Yeah. Yes, I think I'll hand the mic over to you. Thank you.
Is that on all of this that we perceive, and I put we, we all, there might be someone a bit more enlightened than me, but anyway, I put we. We perceive things as.
Don't do that yourself.
I'll be the dummy here. I perceive things as substantial, real, inherent entities.
Yeah.
And so things appear that way. They appear. because that's the way I perceive things. I experience birth, I experience death, and so on. So I believe there is a real thing such as birth and death, because I experience those things. I experience friends and I experience enemies. So I believe that there are real things called friends and enemies. So this whole world, in a sense, comes from ignorance, because those entities don't have any. They're not substantial entities. There's nothing really there of any substance. So in a sense, this world is a result of ignorance, or a result of conceptualization, nothing more than that. But, you know, without trying to conceptualize anything any further than that. But, so I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Beauty, yes, beautiful. And I'll just reiterate what you said, absolutely. What is a nice way to look at the mind's vagaries when it really engages you is the sense of seriousness. Like, look, but this is important. Okay, we can just pretend that it's all not happening, but this is important, you know. There is something really, really serious going on. There is a homicide going or something. That story with that very, very dominant sense of danger and seriousness is what captures the attention to the point when there is very, very hard to see through. That's how the whole competition for attention goes on in the media and social media and all that, where everything brings up the flavor of danger. Your survival is threatened, or survival of your loved one, which is even worse. That is the element that should already blink the red light. That's the mind. That's how it gets you, it traps you for the trip. Because what is really important, after all, if that's, yeah. Anyway, I just I'm saying the same thing. I'm just gonna finish reading the comments and we're gonna wrap it up, because people, I see the comments are already going to say goodbye and wish us good lunch. So now Amarnath says, my heart, tears for the accident of granddaughter's death. Oh, Amarnath, nobody died, and hopefully she will not die. Yes. You can overcome very easily with talking to Kat and Bob. Continue to do meetings with Bob. Yes, thank you, Amarnath. Absolutely. You can call him anytime. You can catch up with him. Please do use him. He's the best thing ever. I'm biased, but that's true. Past is poison. Let's not consume it. Yeah, I know Amarnath's heart is in a good place, even though that story wasn't quite. Now also is going to past. Sting operation investigation on I without operation is the best procedure. JB says, good night, guys. Great spiel as usual, Bob. Thank you and love to you all, guys. And Jane says, see the alleged me or the sufferer as the phantom. Absolutely. Yes, and Amarnath, I suffer I. One false character of story suffers other characters. Let's enjoy this fun. Now, everything is perfectly resolved in unborn Buddha mind, Jane quoting Banki. And so beautifully said, Peter. And Amarnath says, thanks, Peter, drop the ball. I let it roll, enjoy its rolling over the dream. Yeah, drop the ball, I like that, it's a good one-liner. And Primali, not only you, everything is that. Ants, sleeves, soil, dirt, everything is that. Spot on. Yes, there's nothing that's not it if there is no separation. We really enjoy Peter's discussions. Love you, Peter. We do. And Julia, American Julia says, that is a reminder for those listening from North America. If you go to Bob's website, there is a Zoom link and times for tomorrow's meeting, which is Monday morning in Australia and Sunday in the Northern Hemisphere. More proof that time is illusion. Yes, tomorrow, I mean probably in about 10 hours from now or so, there is a Zoom meeting link on the website. Not 10 hours, sorry, 22 hours. Now, Australian Julia, British Julia. We have quite a few Julias. Thank you so much, Kat. I too was triggered by the totalitarian approach that I've sensed would happen 2 years ago. Had to believe we are now here. These times can also be quite exciting. There is a beautiful underground movement and people looking at new ways to live, eat and educate. What if these are times of systems collapsing in a good way? Always another way to look at it, although not non-duality, but it helps move from poor me story. It has helped me a great deal. Thank you, Julia. Yes, it's always good to see if you can't collapse one story, bring 5 or 10 versions of the story, bring them all on, complete opposites, and now you see them on the table, 5 or 6 of them. Which one you're going to believe? Neither, of course, because the freedom is beyond the story. You don't pick a positive story over a negative story. You drop them both and be free. And thank you. Now, a couple more. Oops. Tanya says, do you just listen to stories about law of attraction, numerology, etc.? A friend has so many of those beliefs and seems to want me to believe too. Not that there is anyone believing. You can say something about this. There is no judgment of these beliefs. It's just knowing that they are not true. We over time, Tanya, can only tell you they are phenomenal entertainment for those who need it. We are after a freedom. We can see the entertainment, enjoy the entertainment, but believing entertainment is a double bind, because it causes, as much as joy, it causes much more suffering. Because then you're going to start believing you are a doer who is going to create something and it's not going to happen. So you are a bad doer or you are a failure or all sorts of things. It only reinforces the individual, which we say can't be found. Jane says, the play of consciousness. And that's brilliant. That's probably a better answer to you, Tanya. Thank you so much, Bob and Kat. Anyone today? There is much love. Yes, thank you, everyone. There's much love, and we're going for lunch, so everyone's welcome. And you want to? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Love to all.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, everyone.
Holding the